Okay, good morning, everybody. Oh, Colby, did I scare you?
No, I got confused. I'm all good.
Okay, that's okay. I'm a little confused this morning also. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this week's virtual plant clinic. My name is Bill Lester. I'm with University of Florida IFAS Extension Service in Hernando County, Florida. And joining me today is Colby Pitts, who is our Hernando County Florida Friendly Landscape Coordinator, and also our Master Gardener volunteer, Bernie. And it looks like they're getting beyond their technical difficulties. We have Colleen, who is from Chinsegut Conservation Center. Oh, and we're going to fill the little blocks today. We have Hannah logging in also. I know they had a couple of little technical problems a moment or two ago, but yeah, we have some guests today. Hannah and Colleen are here to answer all of your animal type questions. They've been kind of piling up recently. And I got a few for you today too. So
Oh, wow. Okay.
good morning, Hannah. How are you?
Good morning. Good. How are you?
Good. We got a little bit of an echo there. If you're sitting too close to Colleen, your mics are going to fight each other for a bit. So we'll work on that.
We're not speaking, we'll mute. Yeah.
Colleen, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks.
Bernie, how are you this morning?
Well, I'm just fantastic.
Good.
Beat
good.
that.
And Colby, checking in with you, to be fair.
I don't know if I can top fantastic, but I'll try wonderful. I'm doing pretty good.
Very good.
Well, I'm here. So, and we have a few people watching us live. So, as always, if anybody has any kind of lawn and garden, or we've been getting a lot of lawn and palm tree questions for some reason recently, or especially wildlife or animal questions, because we have the experts here today. I'm not the expert when it comes to animals. You know, we're depending on Hannah and Colleen here to answer those. If you have any of them, go ahead and put them in the comments, and we'll go ahead and try to get them answered. Buddy, good morning. How are you doing? So let me start with a animal type question that came up a few weeks ago. And sometimes we kind of wander off a little bit and get some unusual questions here. But somebody was asking about the legalities and restrictions on keeping something like a coyote as a pet. Not that I'm sure why anybody would want to, but if somebody did want to, what are the rules on keeping things like coyotes, big cats, bobcats, things like that as a pet? I remember somebody mentioned that when they were a child, one of the neighbors had several Florida panthers as a pet. This is probably years ago, so obviously the rules and laws were different back then. So Hannah, what kind of wild animals could you keep as a pet if you wanted to?
So, to the best of my knowledge, only licensed wildlife rehabilitators are supposed to possess or house wildlife for any length of time. Private citizens are not, just normal folks like you and I are not supposed to have them and keep them at home. If there's a reason, if you see an injured or abandoned baby animal, the best course of action is to always take it to a licensed wildlife rehabilitator, because it is. I don't know that our law enforcement is actively seeking out folks to punish for trying to care for them themselves. But I do not believe it is legal to keep them and possess them. And really, it's not always best for the wildlife. If they can be rehabilitated, if they can be re-released back into the wild, that is really what's best for that animal and the ecosystem as a whole.
Yeah, I wouldn't think it'd be a good idea to be keeping a coyote as a pet.
No.
Yeah.
No, and a lot of larger animals like that. I mean, they're going to have their wild instincts, and so I mean, you could potentially have problems with that. You could potentially be injured. You may not be able to care for them as best as they can care for themselves, or if they were to join a pack and live off on their own. And so I think people feel sorry for animals, but they don't really see that it really is best for them most of the time to be back in the wild. we are preparing right now for our homeschool programs and our educational programs in the spring. We are going to be talking about squirrels, which everyone's got squirrels. We're going to be talking about panthers because there's Save the Panther Day in March, on Saturday, March 16th. We're going to have a program for panthers. And we're also going to be talking about black bears. And we do have black bears in the area. They're not as densely populated here as they are in the Ocala area and farther south, but we do have them come through at times. And then we're going to be talking about panthers. And a lot of folks, especially recently, I don't know what's been in the air recently, but we've had a lot of folks mention that they've seen panthers, or someone they know has seen panthers, and it's just when we get down to it, and I've been talking to the biologists who research them and work with them down in South Florida, we really found that it's highly unlikely that folks are seeing panthers. Their eyes are probably playing tricks on them. They're probably seeing house cats. They're probably seeing bobcats or something else. And one little tidbit I will share is that we've never have a documented incidence of a panther having black fur, and that's called melanism, when an animal who's supposed to be one color, all of a sudden its cells don't allow it to produce their normal color, and they all turn black. So albinism would be white, melanism would be black. We don't have any documented incidences of panthers being black. None. So if you see something black, it's not a panther. There are right. Oh my gosh, it's in all the movies, but it's not realistic. For large cats, it's leopards could be, and jaguars could be fully melanistic, but we don't have either of those here, so we're not going to see any large black cats. The kind of interesting thing is there have been a few incidences of bobcats being melanistic. I mean, we've maybe 10 verified instances of bobcats being fully melanistic. So that could be something interesting and possible to come across. But again, possible, but highly unlikely that folks are seeing panthers in our area because they're primarily south of the Chinsegut River. There's only about between 100 and 200 of them left in the wild. So we would have, all that we would probably see is a roaming male, maybe, because males are the ones that just work. But anyway, just to throw that out there.
Okay.
It's kind of funny. I actually knew that panthers could not be black, and you think about like the football team in Carolina, the Carolina Panthers. They have a biologically incorrect logo. Yeah. They ought to change it. I should write a letter.
Right. So these fictional characters are just proliferated, but just so we know, we just put out the truth and hope folks catch on to that.
They get upset when you mention that because I've had 4 or 5 people that have seen black panthers, and when you say there aren't any, they get hysterical. It's the same way with the little spider that we don't have. Everybody thinks that I can't think of the name of the spider, but anyway,
the recluse, the brown.
Yeah, the recluse. Yeah, brown recluse. Anytime there's a spider bite that's unidentified, it's a brown recluse. And when you tell people there's only been one identified brown recluse bite ever in the state, they don't like that. They're so convinced and it's so firm in their mind that they believe it.
It's just as likely, they saw an alien or Bigfoot or something, and they get just as angry as if you tell one of those guys they didn't see it.
Yeah, we have people who go out and search for Bigfoot or all the other names that it goes by. And I watched a YouTube video, gentleman up around Cedar Key, and he was out in the swamps and the woods, and they're convinced that there's at least one out there, and he was looking for it. And then he heard noises out in the woods at night. And so we're not here to say that they definitely don't exist. It's just not that we know of, not that we can conclusively care.
Not going to speculate on cryptozoology today. It's not the point.
Right. Well, on that note, I mean, FWC is open to any real evidence, and they have a place on our website where if you report or if you see a panther and you have photos or other evidence, I mean, they want to see it. So by all means, submit the reports, and I believe you do get a correspondence back if it's confirmed. So yes, please let us know. Well, no, I just saw in the comment, buddy, saying that no damage for the weather events. I just wanted to say good because I know a lot of folks have some trouble with that. So.
One of the things that I get a lot of questions on are little mounds of dirt. They're various sizes, and it's always people are telling me it's either too small or too big to be anything that I would mention. But what are some of the things that could be little mounds of dirt? So many of the people from up north are terrified that there's snake holes, and it's hard to explain that snakes have a hard time digging a hole since they have nothing to dig with. But what could it be if there's a little mound, say a little 4-inch mound of sand out in my driveway? What could have caused that?
So if it's a little 4-inch mound of sand, it might be a little scarab beetle. And
we have them here in front of our office.
Little scarab beetle, and those, and you're the one who would know about this, Dr. Lester, but are they the one that make the little kind of tubes of sand all in a mound, or no?
Yes, they do. They have, and it's the Florida deep digger beetle. So if you have white or yellow sand, they dig very deep holes. So if the mound of sand is bright white, like it's been brought up from fairly deep, and you see it in January or February, which is when they come out, that's probably what it is. If it's February, it's not bees because it's still too early for them. But there's a lot of different things it could be. On the screen here, I'm sharing a picture that we got just either today or yesterday. Somebody wondering what made this hole in my yard. Any guess? Any idea?
Armadillo?
Could be an armadillo. Doesn't look the right shape for a gopher tortoise. There's a lot of things that could dig a hole like this.
I look at that and
maybe
I look at that.
It starts digging a little bit.
I look at that and think, yeah, it's just somebody's dog came in your yard and dug it up.
Probably armadillo for most people, unless you live way out in the country and there's more possibilities of what it could be. But we get these questions and emails and pictures and phone calls all the time. What dug a hole in my yard? If it's just an occasional or one little hole, fill it back in and don't worry about it. If it's causing some kind of serious health or safety problem or an issue with your landscaping, we have moles. We have gophers. They do different damage. We have armadillos. We have squirrels. Squirrels will dig holes to bury an acorn or dig up an acorn. We got a lot of stuff out there in our yards.
The gopher tortoise holes, I mean, there's a pretty easy way to identify those. They have like the smooth entrance, right? Because they're dragging their shells along. And if you have one of those, don't move it. Don't do anything with it, because you'll. Not only is it expensive to pay somebody to move it, it's also illegal for you to do it. So maybe something to keep in mind if you see a gopher tortoise in your yard, you think you have one.
I have them in my neighborhood in Spring Hill, and those poor animals, there's a number of them, and I see them, active, and they love my yard. They cruise through my yard, and they eat weeds. I always seem to have something that they're interested in eating because I don't have a pristine, perfect lawn. I have a mixture of native plants, which they enjoy eating. One of them recently started digging a hole in my yard. I looked out there one day and I saw a hole, and I see sand flying out of it. He's in the process of digging it, stuck around for a day or so, and then left, disappeared. So I have the hole still, but no gopher tortoise living in it.
If you have a big gopher tortoise and you really want to get rid of the hole, please be very careful. The sand, the apron is where they lay their eggs. And it's very possible that you tear up the eggs and destroy the next generation. They really don't hurt anything. They've been here longer than the people have, and I like the guys. So I happen to have 3 of them in my front yard right now. So 2 of them are fairly small, and I cringe what's going to happen if they stay there, because I'll have big mounds in the front yard, but I'll leave them alone. And one of them that has a big mound is underneath a palm tree and doesn't hurt a thing. So it's so neat to watch them kind of wander across the lawn, get something to eat, wander off. They'll go 300-400, maybe 1,000 feet, as much as 1,000 feet, and come back to the hole. I'm amazed that they have such great navigation capability. If you move one, they'll still come back to the same hole. So just remember, you pick one up, he's going to pee on you. So just leave them alone. Personal. They don't hurt a thing.
They like prickly pear, but we move on. You could plant it if they.
For our special guests, we got a question here from Vicky about, she has 6 deer in her yard. Should she be feeding them or just let nature take its course? 1 buck, 2 teenagers, and the rest are does, and she sees them almost daily. So what should people do about deer?
So the best course of action when you have deer in the residential area is to just enjoy that they're there, but to refrain from feeding them. And what we know about feeding deer in a residential area is that it causes them to congregate more frequently in the same place than they normally would. And that can result in a buildup of droppings and can increase the likelihood that diseases will move through that deer population, if that makes sense. And we don't have chronic wasting disease down here in this part of Florida yet, but any kind of unnatural congregation of wildlife, but deer in particular, can cause bad things for that wildlife. And so you're not supposed to, but really it's just not good for them. Really, deer will eat a variety of different foods. So if you just have things in your yard that they're naturally attracted to, I would say if you don't have a problem with that, then just enjoy that they're there and allow them to move through and enjoy their presence. But I wouldn't provide additional food. They naturally forage over a large area. So it's very natural if you only see them for a short amount of time and you're just one stop over on their foraging route for the day. If you were to feed them, and it depends on what kind of road you were on, but you also don't want to potentially cause problems where you're attracting more to your street, and maybe that could cause a collision, increase the likelihood of a collision with a deer vehicle, that type of thing. So that's my best advice on.
We get questions about what kind of plants can people put in their landscape that deer are not going to eat, and deer eat a lot of different plants. They love hibiscus, and they generally don't like azalea. And everything else in between is kind of fair game for deer. They're probably going to at least take. I've seen them. They love citrus trees also. And they'll defoliate a citrus tree up to a certain point because they can only stand and feed just so high. Above that, the citrus tree still has leaves. Below that, they're all gone. So.
Right. So when I was talking about feeding wildlife, and I assumed, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I assumed you meant like providing additional like corn or birdseed or that type of thing. But,
yeah, that was what the question was. She was wondering, should she feed them to help them out?
But no, they're fine. They don't need additional food.
I know Bernie has some experience with some deer. You have a plant that the deer quite like.
They come in and eat my guavas. I never see a deer unless the guavas are ripe, and it's amazing. Those little guys show up. I've got kind of a little grove of guavas. They all ripen about the same time. The deer will show up one morning, and they'll be gone in an hour, and so will every one of the guavas. So it becomes a thing of, if I catch them quick enough, I can go out and get a crop. Otherwise, the deer are enjoying them. I'm glad somebody does. I don't mind the deer. We get a lot of turkeys. There are wild turkeys here edible? Would they make a good Thanksgiving turkey?
Yes. So, um, it's really wild turkeys, as best as I've told from being chats with hunters, is that they really primarily just eat the breasts. And so there's the other meat, especially depending on how it's harvested, you might have damage done to other parts of the meat. So it's usually just the breasts that are salvageable and tasty. And so if that's all your goal is to just have that, then that would be sufficient. But if you wanted the whole turkey, I think you would do better to purchase the whole turkey.
Okay, makes sense.
Vicky said the deer haven't eaten any of her citrus. She's got 12 of them. Wow, that's great. Good for you. And they're blooming, and nothing's been touched. They want to keep an eye on them. Like I said, I did visit a pomelo grove in downtown, just outside of downtown Brooksville years ago, and they had a problem. And I should have gotten a picture. A tree that was just defoliated from a certain, chest height down, and above that was fine. Well, what happened to your tree, dear? So, hey guys, if anybody has any lawn and garden questions, anything else you'd like us to try to answer or address, please feel free to put them in the comments. If you are watching the recording of this presentation, there is my email address. You can always send, if you have a lawn and garden question, send an email with a good description of your problem and what's going on and what the plant is, and pictures. Lots and lots of good pictures. You can't send too many pictures. Pictures really help us figure out what the problem is. And a lot of times, a lot of problems can be solved from clear description and picture and us getting back with you. And if you have any animal questions, there's Hannah's email. So you can, if you have questions about birds, snakes, animals, and lizards, send them to Hannah. Don't send them to me, because I'm just going to send them to her, because I am not very good at identifying any of those. Let's see. I know cardinals and I know blue jays. That's about it for birds. I kind of know what a tegu lizard looks like. I'm still waiting to see one outside in real life. Fortunately, I haven't yet. Hannah, have you seen any tegus in Hernando County? I know they're here. They've been officially found.
Right. I have not. I have not personally, but you're right. I do know the confirmed observations. But I know they like to burrow in banks. They like to burrow on the side of an incline, and they like to eat eggs. They're small animals, so I have a feeling folks will start.
Well, we can go on a tegu expedition and hunt for them sometime if you want.
Well, we do have an invasive species biologist who do that for us, but we do have, and I unfortunately can't participate in the chat, I guess, because I don't have a YouTube account. But I will drop you a link, Dr. Lester, and hopefully you can share it with everyone, because FWC has a program called I've Got One. And that is where anyone can report non-native species like tegus, like pythons, like whatever, cane toads. So it's not just animals, it's also plants, and you can report those things. And the various groups.
Teresa is on here today, and she's probably looking up. She's the one who does the really good job finding the links and posting them instantly, kind of in the background. Because we couldn't make it through the day without Teresa here. I know I'd be lost.
She can't find it. I'm sure we can come up with it, but we'll drop that link in the chat sometime. during the program.
Yeah, I know that you
Just
have
the
a
folks
program. It's called I've Got One, and you guys are always on the lookout for seems like a lot of new lizards and other animals and other plants to find out where they're at and how far they spread.
Yeah, so there's a group of folks who respond to these reports. If we have some good evidence, if we have photos or what have you, even if we don't, we follow up on those to confirm their validity. And then if it's a new species that we don't have or confirmed in our area or our region yet, we can rapidly respond to that and hopefully remove that animal or that plant or whatever it is. And that was really the whole purpose of the website. If we can really curb the introduction of new things, then hopefully we can stop some of these larger problems. Like, if we had been able to do that with the python or some of the earlier things that are kind of too far gone now. The whole purpose is to try to really get at those newly introduced ones and know about some of the more common ones and try to deal with those when we can. But it's a really, really great resource, and if anyone sees any non-native species, please share that.
Yeah, because controlling invasives is really a team effort. So, we really need the public's help with reporting these things. When you see a 4-foot-long lizard on the picnic table in your backyard and you're thinking like, I wonder what that is, take pictures and send them to somebody and they'll look into it. So I think Teresa wants to know, when's your next bat workshop and bat house building? She said your last program was amazing.
So we'll do it at least annually, but we do invite Sherry Clark from the Florida Bat Conservancy to host those for us, and I don't like to monopolize her time. So we'll do at least another one in the fall sometime. And we didn't realize how quickly the last one would fill up. So if we get some more volunteers, we'll likely be able to do a bigger one. I think we only had 13 houses available to be built in that last workshop, but I'll definitely try to make that a part of our annual lineup. If there's more information on bat houses, we can share the Bat Conservancy's website because they have all the information out there. But I know the workshop was really helpful.
Do you put all that on your Facebook page?
We do.
Teresa, can you share the link to their Facebook page?
Colleen, that park is a beautiful place. It's a great community resource, and nobody knows about it. When are you open to the public?
So our official hours are Friday and Saturday from 8 to 2. We are usually here Tuesday through Saturday, but we can't guarantee that the center will be open those days. But our trails are open dawn to dusk, 7 days a week. You would access from our southern entrance, which is located at Snow Memorial and 41. There's a parking area there and a walk-in entrance.
Now, do you still have some association with the Big Pine Track?
Yep, the Big Pine Track. That's another one of our locations. We have that, and then we have Perry Oldenburg. The main entrance for Big Pine is over on Old Crystal River Road. There's also a walk-in entrance that's located kind of kitty corner from our southern entrance.
Those are 3 great locations, and like I say, that it's a shame that nobody knows they're there. Perry Oldenburg is a really nice, I'd say 4-hour, 5-hour hike to actually see the whole place. Big Pine Track is one of those things that if you're interested in what Florida kind of looked like 100 years ago or 200 years ago, it's a great place to go. And I have been to all the parks and led night walks in the parks, and because of my age, I've kind of slowed down and don't do those things anymore. I walk a mile, I just lay down and die. But the going down the hill and going back to the wetlands area is not a problem. But when you're done, you've walked a mile and a half or 2, and you're coming back and you have to go up the hill to get back to the center and get to your car. That's beyond me. So, but
Right.
I don't understand why the people in Tallahassee haven't spent a little more money to promote it. It's probably the greatest nature area we have in Hernando County, and probably the best kept secret. So
yeah, and for those who haven't been here, we do have, as you were saying about the walk down to the prairie to the wetland area, we do have a nice newer, it was just built last year, outdoor classroom down there with the boardwalk that overlooks the prairie down there besides our viewing blind. And those areas are a little more shaded. So that's a nicer, shorter hike for those who don't want to be out in the hot sun. It's just walking down there and back. It's like a 1.2 mile loop, so not too bad.
Do you still have some place where you can hide from the birds and watch them?
Yep, that's our viewing blind. That's down there, down past the prairie. And our parks, we have Chinsegut Conservation Center, the Chinsegut main tract, and then we have Big Pine and Perry Oldenburg.
Very good.
Yeah, I've never hiked Perry Oldenburg. I need to do that sometime. I'm not even positive exactly where it is. I know it's in the same neighborhood.
If you're coming north on 41, it would be on the east side of the road off Deer Run Road. And so it's just a little like dead road that kind of leads off to the east. It's just a little side road. And then it kind of, if you go straight at the end, it takes you over to Perry Oldenburg.
Okay.
We used to go out there at night and with a telescope. It's a nice dark place at night. It's a good spot. If you need some place that doesn't have a lot of light and you want to do some astronomy, it's great for that. There's nothing there anywhere.
Couple of coyotes. Do you guys still have coyotes in the neighborhood? I'm sure you do.
We certainly do, and I was just going to throw it out there that our trails and areas are really only open from half an hour before sunrise, half an hour after sunset. So unless you're coming out for a program, please don't be out here at nighttime. But you can always, use some of the parking area.
Yeah, follow them on Facebook. Check out their website. It's part of the FWC website, and find out what kind of activities they have coming up and sign up.
And we do offer night hikes a couple times a year. So if you are interested in coming out at night, again, watch our Facebook page, watch our event page, and we'll always post if we have that event coming up. And that would be a chance to see the bats come out of their houses. And we'll walk down to the prairie. We'll listen for frogs, owls, whatever, that kind of thing. So you can always watch for that on our calendar.
The question on the gophers and the tree roots.
Yeah.
Gophers tend to go down under the roots. So they don't eat the roots. They don't really do much damage at all to the roots. So that's not really a concern.
Yeah, and I haven't gotten any emails or phone calls about gophers or moles recently. I think it's a little bit early for them. They would usually come out. We get the most calls here in the spring into early summer. And the calls should be coming in pretty soon. Hannah, let me ask you, with gophers, are gophers protected at all? So if somebody has a gopher in their yard, and I know that there are services or people that you can hire to eliminate the gophers and moles in your yard. Are there any restrictions on that? Is that okay?
Okay, so I don't want to speak out of turn. I don't feel like there is, but I'm not 100% certain. Maybe. Yeah.
I looked that up once before, and the information I found, and I think this is a couple years ago, was that one had to have, if you're doing it professionally, you had to have a permit. But if you're doing it to your own front yard, you do not.
I think they're still threatened in Florida, even though they're not federally listed. I think is the current the current rule.
Are we talking pocket gophers, or are we talking gopher tortoise?
Pocket gophers, the little furry things that make tunnels or holes.
Oof, my bad. I'm talking about gopher tortoise.
Yeah.
Oh,
Pocket gophers are very difficult to get rid of. It's I had a lady who lives about a mile from me that went online. There's some pretty good information on how to get rid of them. The university publication, and she did. She took the probe, found the tunnel, dug down, put the trap in the tunnel, covered it, did the whole thing, and caught 2 of them. The only person that I talked to in 20 years that actually did it and caught them. In Arizona, they use a poison gas system that they make from a bucket and using road flares. And
yes, we do not recommend any of those things, any kind of homemade or kitchen made pesticides, insecticides, anything.
And there are pellets, and the problem with the pellets is if you use the pellets and you kill the gopher, and the gopher is on a surface, a bird eats the gopher, a vulture comes along, eats the gopher, you kill a vulture.
Right. It's not.
A coyote comes along and eats the vulture, and you kill the coyote, and more vultures come in and eat the dead coyote, and you kill, and it just becomes a mess. You end up, those pellets kill a lot more things than just the target insect or target animal. So I really hate poisoning animals. You know, it's like rats. If you poison rats, they die in your attic and they smell. You know that's the downside. That's kind of retribution for using poison, because it is not a good way to solve the problem.
And it does cause, because of those problems with non-target effects on other animals, it is illegal to broadcast it is illegal to do above ground broadcast applications of those types of poison baits to control wildlife. So it's for just the reason we talked about. So there are pellets that can be put below ground, and we can debate the effectiveness of that. But because they're a native wildlife species, they're protected by Florida law.
So Diana asked for the your Facebook again, and there it is. And Paige mentions, not sure if it was already mentioned, but with parks, annual state park passes are half off until the 15th. So
it's actually until the 13th, but still it ends Saturday.
Yeah. So get it before.
Get an annual pass and save yourself some money and go to more parks and spend more time out in the woods amongst the trees, and spend less time sitting at home obsessing over moles and gophers and lizards in your lanai and all those other things that I hear about that's stressing everybody out. Just don't worry about it. The lizards will take care of them. Says, hey, you got a snake in your yard? Just leave it alone. Go out for a hike and meditate and relax.
On that note, it's also fishing and hunting licenses are half off. So if you enjoy fishing and you're not exempt from some certain licenses, then those are half off right now too. So for instance, a lifetime Florida gold Florida hunting and fishing license, if any kind of license to give you for the rest of your life, it's only $500 right now, and it's normally over $1,000. But even every level of licenses half off. So even an annual license, you half off.
I just renewed my fishing license just a couple weeks ago.
There you go.
You just reminded me to renew my hunting and fishing license.
Yes. Before, before.
See, and if you go fishing, you're not sitting at home obsessing over those moles and gophers and lizards by your lanai. So you learned something today. Diana probably lives, my guess is she lives in Spring Hill. And she said we get frequent coyote sightings through the Nextdoor and Neighbors app in our area. I see it all the time on Facebook. The funny thing is, at our house, I've only seen coyotes once, but it was two big ones, and they were galloping down the middle of the street one night. But where we used to live, which was only maybe a mile away, it was in a subdivision, an HOA type subdivision, and there were a lot of them there. And you see them like before it got dark, when it was just starting to get dark. They'd walk down the street, they'd cruise through people's backyards. They were all over the place there. So we have coyotes here.
I saw someone post on our Ring, or on our like the Ring neighborhood app, that they saw a coyote and attached a picture, and I'm like 95% sure it was a border collie. But they seemed very convinced that it was a coyote. It would not be told different.
Yes, for coyotes, they look pretty distinctive. The first time I ever saw one was kind of at a distance. I'm thinking like, oh, there's a big, somebody's dog is loose, because it was in the subdivision that we lived in before we moved into our current house. So I thought, oh, somebody's dog got loose. I'm looking at it. I'm thinking, what the heck kind of dog is that? That's a funny looking, gangly dog. So Hannah and Colleen, correct me if I'm not quite right. Do coyotes just have like unusually long legs? Their legs are longer than your average dog?
Yeah, so overall, they may be a little longer, but I feel like the best distinguishing characteristic is really their face and to a certain extent just their coloration in their tail. So they're going to have that wild wolf looking like long muzzle and those big ears that stick up, and they're going to have that tawny brown to gray coloration in that real kind of fluffy tail, not as long as or fluffy as a fox, but still kind of long. But they can range from that to burnt orange, so there's some variation in their coloring. But I've like you said, I feel like the closest thing to a pet that someone might have would be like a German Shepherd. But even then, German Shepherds have very, not spots, but like they have very distinct dark and lighter areas. The coyotes are really, they don't have any distinct spots or things like that. It's really just a gradient of that grayish brown to rust color. And they're pack animals, so they're usually found in a group. But that's not to say you might not see one alone. They're in every county in Florida, so there's nowhere you could go in Florida that you would not potentially see one. And they do well because they're generalists, which means they can survive in a variety of different habitats and eat a bunch of different types of things. So they're omnivores. They eat meat and some plant material. So it's not as much plant material, but they can if they need to. And so they do really well in a neighborhood where maybe there's those pocket gophers or rabbits or squirrels or
a lot of stray cats.
Or a lot of stray cats. I didn't want to say that, but yeah, keep your pets indoors at night. Keep your pet food away from, just not accessible, either in a screened-in porch or just better yet to have that pet food indoors, because that can attract a variety of different wildlife. So really, there's ways to live with them, and for the most part, they're going to leave you alone and go on about their business. But the biggest threat they may pose is to smaller pets, and the best thing to do for them is to not leave them outdoors unsupervised.
Yeah,
they move around quite a bit. Sorry.
When we had all three of our dogs, I always wondered what would happen if a coyote got in the backyard. I always figured if it happened at night, I'd be paying for stitches at the emergency vet. But between the three of them, I always figured that they would work together as a little team. And if there was just one of them, they'd win, but I'd have to be paying for stitches or something. So, but here, let me show this real quick. But we only have one now, Cashmere. And if he ran across a coyote, I don't know. He'd give it a really good fight, that's for sure. He'd probably want to play with it first, and then once he figured out the coyotes aren't very friendly, things would break out then. Yeah, Diana says that she's encountered coyotes while walking her dog, and they take off. She carries pepper spray. That's always a good idea. But the problem is, if you're out walking your dog, you always want to have it on a leash. You want to be especially protective of little dogs. Now we have a little Chihuahua, and she is 7 pounds. Cashmere is 70 pounds, and the Chihuahua is 7 pounds. 7 pounds isn't very big. And if you're talking a hawk or an eagle or a coyote, that's just, that's just asking for trouble to leave your little tiny dogs out there running loose. So.
I have been flying off this field for years. I've worked at this airport here, and we're about, I don't know, maybe 1,500 feet, 2,000 feet from where the runway is. And I've seen red fox and gray fox both on this property several times over the years. So there are a lot of things living here that most people don't realize are here. I went out to Chinsegut one time. Right across from the entrance to Chinsegut, in the middle of the day, there was a bobcat about 500 feet back from the road, just sleeping on a log. So, the insects, the animals here are amazing. My neighbors had chickens and didn't put them in at night, and the bobcats had field day. So if you don't see them, it doesn't mean they're not there. It just means that they're smarter than we are.
And I just posted a link to Chinsegut Conservation Center's website. And let me go ahead and post one for some more information from FWC on controlling gophers, I believe, here.
A funny story about that. That's a great point, Bernie. Yes, they're here. They're often nocturnal or crepuscular, so we're not seeing them as often, but they're here. And we live in Hernando County. I live in Hernando County as well. And one time at the time we had dogs, and they were 45-pound bird dogs. And I let them out in the backyard before I realized that there was a bobcat in the backyard. The one and only time I've ever seen one. And we have a wood pile stacked up between two trees. And I kid you not, the bobcat was on one side and my dog was on the other. And before my dog realized, never even saw it. Before he kind of realized something was amiss, the bobcat turned and took off, and it just gave us both a good laugh. But they're here, they're around, and I think we live in a very wooded area, so the bobcat was just curious.
Yeah, you want to be careful. I know, and I've seen pictures of, even if you have like a 6-foot privacy fence, coyotes can clear it, and
Sure.
Deer can jump amazingly high. I know a small farm in the area that they have fence. They said the deer just go right over the fence.
Yeah. You would have to have, for deer, you would have to have those high fences to keep them from getting out. And lots of wildlife can either go over or under, can burrow, like if they really wanted to. So having a fence doesn't mean that you're not going to encounter wildlife.
Yeah, I was going home one night, and it was very foggy. I was driving very slow, and bobcat and 3 kittens ran across in front of the car. And so that was the first time I realized there's bobcats in my neighborhood. I'm a mile from the house, and since then I haven't seen the cats so much as I've seen evidence of them. And they're even in the heart of the Spring Hill area. One of the people I know that sends pictures on the ham radio thing back and forth has shown pictures of the things in his backyard. and there's deer, which is no big deal, raccoons, possum, and the number of things that are running around in what are basically built up areas is tremendous, and yet nobody knows they're there. So I think it's nice that we can still have some nature. I really hate it when the people show up and all they want to do is get rid of everything that moves. If you see a snake and it's not a coral snake or a rattlesnake here, it absolutely is not a problem. If it's a black snake, it's a wonderful thing to have. As long as you got black snakes, you don't have problems with other snakes. So, it's just kind of tragic. People bring two pieces in and want identification. Don't do that. I really hate seeing all the snakes over the years. I'll bet we've had 15 dead snakes, two piece where people took a shovel and killed the snake before they brought it in. And never once has it been a rattlesnake, although every person that brought the snake in thought that it was probably something poisonous. Never had a poisonous snake brought in for identification.
That's a good point, folks. Be nice to your snakes because they do us a good service. Someone asked in the chat, are bobcats ever a danger to people? And I would say, by and large, no. They're so small. And most of the time, people don't see them because if they see or hear you, they're hightailing it the other direction, most likely. Where people will encounter them sometimes is when they're attracted to their chickens, their whatever pets or anything in their yard. And so occasionally they will come at night and be interested in what's food in your area, but they are not hunting or looking to start a fight with a person at all.
For a normal homeowner in a suburban environment, bobcats aren't an issue. I know people that live kind of further out in the country who have chickens. Takes a lot of work. You need to manage them because if you just let them just kind of run around, there's all kinds of different hawks and eagles and raccoons and bobcats and coyotes, and we can go on with everything that likes to eat chickens. So if you have to protect them and manage them, and I know that people have a lot of problems with that.
It's kind of similar with the I like to ask Bernie is where do people get bit by snakes most often?
Oh, they always get bit in the web of their hand.
Mm-hmm. So it's like most animals, they're not going to bite you unless you get it, in a corner and try to grab it or try to pet it or something. Just leave them alone and you'll be all right. That's almost everything.
Right. So I'd like to point out there are 44 species of snakes in Florida, and only 6 of those are venomous, and only 4 of the venomous ones are even in our area. So most of the snakes you see they all are good because they all have their purpose, but most of them are not going to cause you any problems, especially if you leave them alone.
If you live way out in the country, you might see rattlesnake, and coral snakes are more common way out in the country. But most of us aren't going to run across them. Take a picture. If you see a snake in your yard and you want to take a picture and send it to Hannah, I'll show her email address once again. We'll figure out what it is. But don't feel that you must kill it and bring it to our office, because I don't even waste my time trying to ID it. People will walk in, honestly, they walk in, they say, what kind of snake is this? And I'll say, does it really matter? It's dead. And I'm not going to,
Right. And if it's close to your house and you don't want it there, you can always spray it with the hose, shoo it with a broom, if it is really in your way and you can't deal with it being where it is.
And black snakes are as afraid of you as you are of them. And for some reason, snakes always surprise you. You never see them 10 feet away. You just look down and there's a snake. And then I always jump and scream, and the snake always goes the other direction. So we go different directions.
Yeah. Read somewhere that's it's like a evolutionary response in humans, that even if you're not someone who deals with snakes all the time, or you've never been scared of snakes, whatever, but you'll see it and everyone gets a little like you tighten up a little bit, and it's one of those
the snake
leftovers from way back in the day.
So, hey guys, I've been showing different various information on the screen here. Like to remind everybody to be sure to visit our Master Gardener Nursery. Do you know this coming Saturday, we're going to be celebrating Arbor Day out there. So the nursery is going to be open this coming Saturday, 8:30 in the morning till noon. Come on out. We're going to have a couple of tables. You can, if you have any lawn and garden questions, the nursery is run by master gardeners who can all help answer your questions. You can bring in pictures of snakes and pictures of bobcats and whatever it might be, and they'll help you figure out what it is. So stop by this weekend. We have a huge number of past recorded classes on Hernando County Government's YouTube channel. So be sure to check that out sometime. Go to YouTube, little search box at the top, look up Hernando County Government and check out our recorded classes there. And here is all of Colby's information. That's going to lead to his email, their website, everything you need to know about upcoming compost bin / rain barrel classes. We generally do them together. When they are, how to register, how to sign up, what kind of cost is involved. And always remember, if you have really, really difficult questions, send them here. Send them to Hannah. She's a smart one. She'll help you figure it out.
Well, and I wanted to share one additional opportunity in reference to Arbor Day. So we are doing a tree walk with arborist Ken Morgan on not this coming Saturday, so it's not competing with.
Oh, tell Ken I said hi. Ken's a great guy.
Yes, will do. So Arbor Day in Florida Arbor Day is officially not tomorrow, but next Friday, the 19th. And so we're having a walk here at Chinsegut on the 20th on Saturday from 10 to noon with arborist Ken Morgan. And so we're going to take a short walk, and we're going to focus on the native trees that we have here and in reference, some of the issues they may be having and how to care for a native type of tree. But you come, you bring any of your tree questions, and it'll just be a fun talk and walk, and just a good opportunity to ask your tree questions if you don't have anyone else to ask. But that event is on our Facebook and on our website.
And the funny thing is, if you want to learn about Florida trees and the variety of Florida trees, the ones that naturally grow here native, you really have to go for a guided walk out in the woods. Because in residential landscaping, you're only going to find a small number of different species. We did a presentation. We had a guest come over from Lake County Extension, Jamie Lynn Doherty, and she's a tree expert. She has all the ISA arborist certifications. She worked with New York City tree department or tree whatever up there in New York City. She has a lot of experience. And we walked around our nursery, and she was amazed at the variety of trees that we had there. And they're ones that you don't see in people's front yards. You see live oaks, you see sycamores, a handful of others. But some of the, at our nursery, we have a huge, water chestnut oak. And you probably have them in Chinsegut. Maybe out in the woods, they like a heavier hammock kind of soil, but you never see them as a front yard tree. Landscapers don't use it. You don't see them in subdivisions. So get out there and go for a hike in the woods if you want to see a whole variety of trees that grow well here.
Yes, these are the trees that will grow with no care.
Just no fertilizer. After they get established, you don't have to water them. Don't have to spray for bugs. Don't have to go out there and keep trimming them or pay your guy to prune them up. You just kind of set it and forget it, plant it, let it grow, let it give you some shade. When the leaves fall, don't stress over it. A couple leaves in your yard or on your lawn isn't the end of the world, guys. I speak with so many different people that get so stressed and uptight about everything happening outside. Just take a deep breath. The leaves will be okay. Your black snake in the bushes is not going to try to get in your house and kill you in the middle of the night. He just wants to live out there and eat lizards and mice and this and that. So buddy, thank you so much for tuning in today. If anybody has any last minute questions, get them in quick, because it's, oh, look at that. It's exactly 11 o'clock. We're doing good with time management. We'll go ahead and wrap this up in just a minute here. Hey, Hannah, Colleen, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to have you guys back on here a little bit more often, because like I said, when it comes to the animals and the birds and the snakes, I don't know anything about them. I depend on you guys.
Well, thank you for having us. It was fun. And of course, we don't know everything, but we'll do our best.
Bernie, Colby, thank you so much for being on here today.
Of course.
Pleasure.
And I don't see any other questions. So if anybody is watching this as a recording, please feel free to leave comments, follow our Facebook page, like this post, like the live recording. And if you have any questions, just reach out. Email is by far the best way to get in touch with me. Email and lots of good pictures is always the best way and quickest way to get your question answered. So with that, we will be back here again next week. I'm not positive if I'm going to be here or not. So if everybody wants to stay on for just a moment after we go ahead and log off here, until next week, everybody take care, and we'll see you then. Thanks so much. Bye.
Bye.